they're not going for clarity. I mean, the writing is bad because it's deliberately bad. They're deliberately obfuscating, they're deliberately covering up the true meaning of the passage or the true meaning of a sentence by nesting the core of it within the series of Russian dolls, as Matt pointed out in the chat there. So yeah, you also have this phenomenon. You have it in formal logic, you have it in computer programming, the idea of nesting. You have something at the core within layers and layers and layers of window dressing, covering it up. And so you have to unpack or peel away all of those layers to get to the inside of it. And one way this happens in reading comp is when you have, as you said, pronouns that are ways to reference the original subject without stating them outright. So we have to go back to find the true source of what they were actually talking about. Or you have run-on sentences where there are tons of other little subclauses or prepositional phrases bounded between two commas. You can chop all of those out to get back to the core. But the more of those you add on, the more filler you have, the more you need to cross out, eliminate, remove from your view in order to get back to what they were actually talking about in the first place. It is fascinating. I think it's remarkable. And I would love to say that it's all BS and shouldn't be there. But when you look at contracts, they're exactly the same way. You look at even just like your template default apartment rental contract. It's got tons of this stuff. And those laundry lists of conditions and this and that and that and that and that. It makes your eyes glaze over and then you can miss something important. So it's there for a reason in legalese. And it makes people sound smart maybe when they do it, because you have to have a college degree or a JD to really understand what they're really doing there. And the LSAT is testing that from the very beginning here. And so anytime you can find out that prepositional phrase that doesn't need to be there, what's the primary subject, what's the primary verb, that's always going to help you out. And so I would get into the habit of crossing out whatever garbage you can. And unfortunately, that crossing out is a lot easier to do on a paper LSAT, because the digital, the flex, the online doesn't really allow that specifically. But maybe with a highlighter, for example, you could at least lay out for yourself, what is that most important thing? I talked about primary subject, primary verb. To me, that's core. To me, that's like a conclusion. But then you have your words that indicate degree of certainty or the category they're talking about. So things like only or the only would definitely qualify there. In some cases, they might be necessary sufficient indicators. In other cases, they might just be saying this is a qualifier, meaning we're only talking about this subgroup specifically. That's really going to matter versus just saying everybody of that category. Those things make a massive difference, especially if you're looking at, for example, parallel reasoning questions, or you're looking at might the conclusion be crossing the line, going beyond whatever the evidence could have warranted. But a lot of the things surrounding may not end up mattering that much. And the more of those things you have, the more your eyes can just glaze over. So if I'm saying like, let's focus on what really matters, it's going to be the core stuff, not the prepositional phrases. You can look at those later for additional context when you really need to. This linguistic stuff that you're referring to, Ben, it is incredibly important. And I think having that understanding either intuitively or through practice is really going to help. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.